Hello and welcome to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Suzette Maylor. We have another great episode lined up for you, and my special guest today is Benjamin Brother Ben Evans. He is the managing director of something called the Be Me community, and he's going to tell you all about it as we talk about minority male engagement and community building. Welcome, Brother Ben. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited because I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to tell everyone about this program. So first, tell us, how did Be Me community get started?
So Be Me community was a project of the Knight Foundation. And so Trabian Shorters, who was vice president of the Knight Foundation, wanted to find out how black men were being engaged in our communities and how black men were engaging. So we sent videographers, you know those flip cams years ago, you just pick it up, press the button and record, sent them to Philadelphia and Detroit in search of black men who were doing things to build community. Came back with 2,000 videos of black men talking about what they do every day to build community.
Hold up. So we get a bad rap, a negative stereotype of black men nowadays. And you're telling me someone set up a program to record random black men
Random in the streets.
doing something positive to help uplift their community. And they had 2,000 entries over what period of time?
Just in the summer.
Wow.
2,000 videos. And we said, you know what? Something is here. There's a there. And so the next year, Knight put out a challenge and said, if we gave you funding, what would you do to further build your communities? And we got 3,000 videos. And so that's when Be Me Community launched. Trabian Shorters left the Knight Foundation to take Be Me on full time. And now we're in 6 cities around the country and have awarded close to $2 million to 165 black men, and we are still growing.
Wow. So there is something that is missing, a connect in society that says, minority men are going to not be as successful, not continue their education. The likelihood of them getting a really good job is less. There has to be some truth. My mom says there's always some truth to a stereotype. Why is it that there are some areas in where minority men are left behind?
Yep. So let's talk about the frame of reference in people's minds. People gather information from television, from books, from magazines, from the news, and the stories you tell become the life that you live. So if you're always repeating something negative, if you're always repeating a stereotype, you tend to believe that. And so we've done our research, and we know that black men lead in serving their children more than any other racial group. This was a study done by the CDC. Black men serve in our military more than any other racial group. 1 out of 4 has either served or is currently serving. Black people start businesses at 2 times the national average. Black women lead in having the most degrees in the United States. And black people give of their charity and money more than any other racial group. So if black people are leading in those areas, why aren't those the stories we tell, and why aren't those the stories we hear? And so Be Me is not in the narrative changing game, we're in the telling the truth game.
Wow. I want Hollywood to listen to this interview because those statistics are quite the opposite of what we see in the news.
Absolutely.
And it seems like there's a lot of positivity there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you bring this to Miami.
Yes.
Tell me about how it starts here.
So we start by finding people who are interested in building more caring and prosperous communities, who's interested in helping us to build a network. This is not just a black thing, it's an everybody thing. We are responsible for our community. No one's coming to save the day.
Ever,
it's
ever.
us.
Yes.
But we start with black men because black men are the most demonized in the media. If you think of a statistic of any other racial group, you think of positive ones. When you get to black men, black folk, you think sports and entertainment. When in actuality, we're degreed, we're entrepreneurial, we're patriotic, we're loving, we're fatherly, and those stories aren't being told. So if we can get our communities to remove a racial group as being the face of crime or the face of why this community is doing so wrong, we can then tackle the issue of bringing everybody together under a common cause to build community.
So it sounds like the narrative already existed.
Absolutely.
You're just telling it.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the negative narrative that a lot of people have. in their minds. So the typical BME candidate, be me.
Be me.
I
Be
want
who?
to say BME.
Be me.
Be me
Yeah,
candidate.
everybody does
I
that.
love it. I'm
and we have a
sorry.
chant where I'll be walking the streets of one of our cities and I'll hear, be who? And I respond, be me, as one of our
Okay.
guys in our group. So that's it.
The Be Me candidate
Yeah.
looks like what? What kind of projects are there?
So 18 and above, black male, and who authentically cares about his community. And people automatically go to Be Me's a mentoring. Be Me's not a mentoring organization. We have politicians, pastors, barbers, coaches, business folks, entrepreneurs, scientists who are working to build community in many different ways, whether it's creating jobs, creating economic opportunity, whether it's making sure our environments are more beautiful, whether it's tutoring and mentoring youth. I mean, it's so many different areas we're touching. It's not just mentoring, but it's about coming together to build community.
Now, do most of the programs that are initiated start in predominantly black and or, not saying that they are synonymous with being economically disadvantaged or challenged communities? Are those the areas that you're focusing on? And where do the projects have the most impact?
Yep, so we have a couple different areas of focus. One is an air game. So we're trying to get to those in media, we're trying to get to those in corporate, in government, to have them reshape the way they look at building community. Why value someone based on their deficit or their shortcoming when you can value them based on their asset, their aspirations, and what they bring to the table? And that's what we do. And then we hit a ground game. We start changing the message on the ground by telling the truth. The facts that I put out, not too many people know that. And so we're hitting every area with our message, and we do that by finding the men who are actually doing amazing things. So it's not just a talk game, but it's an action game, and then we uplift their stories, tell their stories in the media. I'll give you one example. Shaka Singora out of Detroit, spent 19 years in prison for murder, got out, no one would give him a chance. He has a record, couldn't get a job, couldn't find a place to live. We gave him a memoir because he was really interested in building community and took his story and put it on so many platforms around the country. He's now best friends with Oprah Winfrey. His book, Righting My Wrongs, is a national bestseller, and it's because we did not value him based on one mistake he made in his life, and we looked at his potential and what he wanted to do with his future. And now he's traveling the country, traveling the world actually, all over the internet and TV, spreading hope and love and helping people to forgive one moment in someone's life. So that's just an example of one of the guys in our group.
That's excellent. So out of 3,000, how does one pick who? Because I'm sure you're looking at every project we want to fund this project. We want to make this like the norm.
Absolutely, yes.
How do you pick these?
Well, we have review teams in each of our cities who are looking for the authenticity and the realness in the story. It's great that you feed the homeless. Tell us about the time where you were once homeless, or you know what it is not to have food in your house. Or another example is one guy was working Wall Street. He got tired of seeing what was happening in our communities, left Wall Street to start urban and affordable housing in his community. So there's so many different reasons why you do what you do. What you do is great. Everybody's doing great things. Why you do it is most important. Why are you connected? What's your story? And that's how stories rise to the top. In our call for stories, annually we give $10,000 to 10 black men in all of our cities.
Wow. So when I think about the role of economics, I think minority communities can have a great impact on, turning things around just by their own economic power. Yeah. Talk a little bit about the economic power in a lot of our quote unquote inner cities or places that people write off. What about the economics of those communities that businesses, small, large, and otherwise, can benefit from?
So we have a couple of things going on right now. Spend Black, Buy Black, and Bank Black. And so in a lot of our communities, by 2019, the buying power of the African American community will be $1.9 trillion.
The African American community in the United States?
In the United States.
Buying will spend
$1.9 trillion.
Wow.
Just in streaming services for online entertainment, we spend $40 billion.
Wow.
So our buying power is huge. And if we begin to pull those resources to build within our own communities, we stand on 4 pillars: health, wealth, network, and know-how. If you're healthy, you got some money, you network with other folks, you know how to do things, you can build your own community and not be dependent on so many of the things that most people depend on. If folks would spend just a portion of their income on all black businesses, that would create 2 million jobs around the country.
Wow.
And so we have the power to transform our communities ourselves. As I've said, as our CEO, Trabian Shorter says, as one of our good brothers, Sean Dove says, we are it. We are more than able. No one's coming to save the day. We are here to build our own community, and economic empowerment is it.
So there's a term out there, asset framing. Define that for us. What does that mean?
So asset framing is going into communities and looking at the good, looking at people's aspirations, and looking at the value and the asset they bring to the table versus going in and denigrating folks by valuing them based on their shortcoming. So the low-income community, the poor community, the disenfranchised community. Who wants to be labeled like that?
Exactly.
You know, why not let's go in the community and find inspiring children to educate so they can have a better life versus we're going into disadvantaged, poor, low-income communities so we can keep children out of prison. Who wants to be defined in such a way? And how is that inspirational to bring them on board to build them up?
And to bring partners on board.
Absolutely. So the stories you tell become the life that you live. And if we continue to tell the story of our demise, we'll never get to the story of our success.
So with all this good stuff going on, is there a real impact in people's lives? I know people are probably sitting at home wondering, well, why are we still here? You know, all this shooting and killing in Miami and wherever else. Of course, you know, it happens everywhere in the world, but somehow the story gets told a little bit more convincingly for some communities than others. What is the real impact going on here?
So the impact that we're having is changing the minds of those who are in control of things, whether it be philanthropy, business, government, and they in turn impact the communities that they serve. We're changing the minds of neighborhoods and how people view one another. Let me tell you, there is crime. There are bad things happening in our community, but it's just a small percent of what's going on in our communities.
But it gets blown up on the news,
absolutely.
and you think everyone's horrible and people are dying in the street.
If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
Exactly.
And that's one thing, you have to get your information from other sources. You have to get your information from books. You have to get your information, not just, if we all just got our information from the news, we'd be afraid to go outside.
Exactly.
We'd be afraid to live.
We have about a minute left. Tell us about one of your stories from Miami, a young man of color who's doing something extraordinary.
Absolutely. So Jonathan Spikes was diagnosed with cancer and was told he only had a few years to live. He surpassed the years he was supposed to live. He has witnessed his brother be shot, his brother be killed in Miami. He could have used that story and, you know, used that as his crutch to why he's not doing. He's used that to uplift him and uplift so many in the community, start affirming youth, started a foundation, and he uplifts those who have gone through trauma and situations and let them know, you know, there is a better way, and we have to start dealing with our feelings and our emotions. And so I applaud his work in Miami. It's transforming lives of young people all over.
I love it. Finally, Brother Ben, what motivates you to be involved in this kind of work?
What motivates me is I'm doing my part in this little bit of time that I'm on earth to spread love and to spread hope. And if I can make a living off of spreading love, I am in a really good pace. So that inspires me because I know that love wins in the end.
Brother Ben, tell us where people who are out there interested in Be Me, where can they find more information? What's your website?
Please go to bmecommunity.org, bmecommunity.org. Check us out, spread the word, and join our community and be a part and help us spread love all across America.
Well, I'm so proud of you. Continue to do the great work. We're very thankful to have Brother Ben, Ben Evans, here with us, right here on Joy with Our Town. Check out the Be Me community. Don't go anywhere. A lot more Join Our Town to come.
Did you know kids who play outdoors have healthier lungs?
Totally.
I did. Did you know that boys that play with dolls make better husbands?
My son has lots of dolls. But did you know terry cloth diapers breathe better?
I did.
It's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that strollers have the right of way on a sidewalk?
Yes.
Yep, I did. Did you guys
Did you know that kids who eat breakfast have higher GPAs?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say.
Did you know babies should never touch silver? It's really bad for them.
I knew that.
Did you guys know that statistically friendly kids have more friends?
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Did you know most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat to make sure your child is protected.
I'm putting that on my blog.
I just put it in mine.
Hello and welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Suzette Maylor. My guest for this segment is Mr. Jason Walowitz. He's from an organization called United Financial Counselors, and he's going to talk a little bit about establishing credit and first-time home buyers. Welcome, Jason. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for being with us. And
Absolutely.
I think credit and getting your credit score in order is always a timely topic. And I'm so glad you're here to discuss this with me. First of all, what is credit?
All right. So, I mean, we all know what the credit scores and how it works.
No, we don't.
Well,
let's not assume.
Okay. So, credit bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, right? But, it's so much more than that, okay? Rather than, having your scores anywhere between 300 to 850. Everyone thinks they have to have a 700 to buy a home, buy a car, buy whatever it is you want. But, most people, what they don't know is that there are actually 15 to 30 other credit bureaus out there that are extracting information and obtaining this information for all purposes, whether it's to buy a house, buy a car, the traditional things, to get a bank account or to, let's say, go ahead and rent a home. So let's go over like something very simple, So like I said, most of us heard of Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. But then there's another company out there called Innovis. Innovis is another credit bureau. Most of us don't know about it. But I'm sure a lot of us that are listening to this story are renting homes. Well, that information is extracted by Innovis to see, are you a good renter? Are you paying your light bill? Your FP&L bill for Florida is extracted by Innovis. Your Sprint bill's extracted by Innovis. Or how about, you ever heard of PRBC?
No, I haven't.
All right, so PRBC is another credit bureau, not as big as Equifax, TransUnion, or Experian, but it's a credit bureau that actually allows individuals such as us to report our information. So outside of the main three, there's just so much more out there that people don't realize, that traditional lending is now looking to utilize these as barometers to see if we are good borrowers, if we're going to be good renters, are we going to go ahead and pay our Sprint bill, are we going to pay our rent, whatever it may be. So, again, credit is so much more than just a number. It obviously determines, what our interest rate's going to be, if we're going to get that home we want, if we're going to be able to afford the car we're going to buy. It gives us the opportunity to enrich our lives through financial independence by having good credit. So our organization, which is a nonprofit, it's a 501c3 nonprofit, helps people not only learn and utilize this information and also obtain all these free credit reports from every single bureau out there, but also to reestablish it for those goals.
So I want to break this down because you've said so many good nuggets. First of all, there is something called a credit bureau. And I think for our viewers, we're going to have a range of people. Some people who have been in the market for a very long time, some people who were just coming into the market of credit. How does one build credit?
So, debt is not necessarily a good thing, right? None of us want to get into debt. None of us prefer to have credit cards or loans and so on and so forth. But in order to build credit, it's required. So even those that are trying to rebuild their credit, those that are trying to establish their credit, or those that are just 18, 19 years old that are able now to really build credit, it requires you to extend credit, meaning essentially get debt.
Okay, hold on.
On a low basis, though. It's not overhand.
So we're not telling everyone to run in and get any credit cards. However, for you to get someone to lend you money, you already have to have shown yourself trustworthy by borrowing money. So you're saying you do have to get into a little bit of debt to show other people? Is that what you're saying? To
Yes,
get
thank you.
more?
Yeah, I don't want
into
everyone to
more?
go out there and just go ahead and just go crazy and start buying, everything they can get their hands on. But at the same time, there's other ways to help you build your credit. Secured credit cards, putting your money up $500, $200 in exchange of getting a $200, $300, $500 credit limit. Your money is secured against the money they're lending you. So it allows you to then essentially extend credit. And the reality is that when you do get these credit cards, you don't want to go out and actually spend, because if you go over what the traditional percentage of the credit limit is, if you go over that 30%, it's actually going to cause your score to go down. So yes, no, I do not want everyone to go out there and start going crazy. Right?
But you do require some debt to show that you can pay it back.
Right. I mean, think of it. If you went in and you wanted to get a mortgage, but you never actually borrowed money before, we don't know if you have the ability to pay it back. You may have the income, you may have the knowledge, you may have everything, but if you don't have the demonstrated experience, lenders rely on that. So yes, small baby steps.
Okay, so what for people who don't know, so you have a credit rating, each and every person, I say with a social security number, has a credit rating.
Absolutely.
As in someone you borrowed money from reports how well you paid it back. And that leads us to the question, what is a credit score?
So, simply put, the credit score is obviously or not obviously, I shouldn't say that, but what allows us to determine if you're a positive good borrower. Okay, credit scores range from 300 to 850, but credit scores in themselves are very, it's very interesting. Most of us do not realize when we go get a car or apply for a car payment, they're looking at a different credit score than if we're applying for a home, or if we're applying for a credit card, a consumer credit card, which is a basic like Visa or MasterCard. That shows a different credit score than if we applied for a store card like a Home Depot or Macy's. So credit scores are not only just this range of numbers, but there's different scoring models depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. So if you had a home before and you have positive credit, okay, and you've had this home, you've paid this home on time and so on and so forth, and you get your credit report pulled by, let's say, us to get a mortgage. Well, we may show you have a 740 score, but let's say you never got a loan to get a car. You paid it all cash your entire time. There's never been history of a car payment. So you may have a 740 score on what's called a RMCR, Residential Mortgage Credit Report, but when you go to get that car, you may have a 640 score on the same credit bureau. So credit scores are much more than just a number. They're also demonstrate how not only our ability to pay the debt back, but if we're able to do so.
So what role does a credit score play, excuse me, I'm thinking about money, play if someone is thinking about purchasing their home, a first home?
Okay, so I mean, it's a very complicated answer, but to simplify it, most loans require a minimum score. If you're under that score, you're not getting the loan. So, for example, most first-time home buyers get an FHA loan. That is a federally insured mortgage, where the government doesn't give us the money, still comes from a bank, but FHA, this Federal Housing Authority, goes ahead and insures it. So, at the end of the day, that requires a bare minimum of a score of 580. But I'm never going to tell anyone out there to go get a mortgage if you have a 580 score, because it's going to affect how much that mortgage costs you.
The interest rate.
Yes and no. See, a lot of people believe that your credit score determines your interest rate when you're getting a mortgage. So it does to an extent. If you're under a 580, you're not getting a mortgage. But if we walk into the same office, you have a 580, or I have a 580, you have a 740, let's put it that way, and we walk into the same office to get a mortgage, we both could get the same interest rate. Except because you have the 740 score and you walk in and say, I want 3.875%. They'll give it to you and they'll say, let me give you $2,000 towards your closing cost. And I walk in with my 580 score and I say, I want a 3.875%. Well, Jason, we'll provide it to you. But at the end of the day, we know we're going to harass you or have to go after you for the money. It's just, it's going to take us some time. So if you want that 3.875%, you're going to have to pay for that.
Right.
You'll end up, I can still get the same score, I still get the same rate, but I'll end up paying $5,000 to $6,000 just for that rate when you're getting $1,000. So with homes, your credit score doesn't necessarily determine your interest rate. It determines what you get or what you receive for that rate.
Excellent. So what should a person do to prepare to buy their first home?
There's a lot to do.
A lot.
You know,
Well, we only have about 3 minutes left,
Okay,
so you
so-
tell us which is most important.
I'll run down through them quickly, as quick as possible. So, you know, the first step is financing. We all have the dreams. We go on Zillow or Trulia and we look at all the beautiful homes on there. But truly, you need to know what it is you can afford. And most of us don't realize this, but there's a lot of cities out there, counties, programs, even our organization offers assistance to buy that home. You know, there's millions of dollars of free money out there for any type of individual, even those that exceed the area median income, to go and push them to buy a home. So I'd say the first thing to do, get your finances in order. You know, there's the organizations such as us, there's even your bankers. You know, find out what you really need to be in order to afford that home. And in addition to that, bottom line is after you get the finance in order, realtor, go shopping, you know, it wraps up pretty quickly.
What are some of the biggest mistakes people make before buying their first home?
Not preparing. Not preparing, not knowing they have to come to the table with an extra $2,000 or $3,000. And if it's not in their bank account, they're borrowing it from somebody that immediately disqualifies
And then
you.
closing costs.
Closing cost, or even becoming short on their down payment. I've had individuals unknowingly go ahead and get a car during the process, increase their debt to income ratio. You know, there's a lot of do's and don'ts, and you know that's going to take another 45 minutes. So bottom line is that educate yourself.
Educate yourself. Tell
Yeah.
us more about your organization. What do you guys do?
So United Financial Counselors is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our focus is to not only provide education, but the resources, the tools, and then also the financial capabilities in order to obtain your goals.
Is it free help for the community? How does it help the community?
So yes, I mean, for the most part, most of our programs are free. You know, at the end of the day, if you do get a mortgage, it's not a cost to our borrowers. And if you need down payment assistance, not a cost to the borrowers. So it is out there for the community, not just in South Florida, all over Florida, even other states.
So Jason, if people want to find more information about what to do and what not to do prior to buying a home, where should they go to look for information?
Best thing to do is go to www.unitedcounselors.org or contact us at 954-372-4370.
Thank you so much. I know our time goes by so quickly with these interviews, so we'll definitely have you back. Thank you to Mr. Jason Walowitz, and thank you at home for watching. You've been tuned in to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Suzette Maylor. We'll see you next time.